Okay, I'm going to give it another minute or two as we actively have some people joining right now. So everyone hold tight and we'll get started soon. Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and get started now, and there'll likely be a few others joining along the way. My name is Todd Peterson. I'm the program director for Vanderbilt's Master of Imaging Science program. And I want to thank you for your interest in the program, and thank you for taking the time to join us today for our virtual information session. I'm going to run through a few slides to give some background and some information, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end for questions. At that point, I'll be joined by my colleague, Dan Gotchberg, who's the Director of Graduate Studies for the program. So without further ado, I'll launch right into it. To begin, I just want to take a moment to talk about imaging science and what that is, what it represents. You may be aware we have a number of different imaging modalities, in particular imaging modalities that are most thought of as being used in the clinic in medicine. And these different imaging modalities, such as MRI, CT, and PET, we can use these imaging modalities to interrogate a number of different parts of the body, a number of different physiological states, a number of different disease states. And so what imaging science represents is really the idea that all of this can be wrapped together and thought of as a coherent discipline of science, because there are common features regardless of the imaging modality or the task to which the imaging is being applied, that are in common across those. And so by its nature, imaging science is very multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary. It not only combines biology and physics, but also chemistry, engineering, math, and computer science. In terms of imaging science research, there are many different aspects to that, such as the technology development, either creating new imaging modalities or trying to improve the technologies underlying individual imaging modalities to make them more sensitive or offer higher spatial resolution, better image quality. There's the use of imaging to further our understanding of biological systems, both normal biological systems and disease states. And then, of course, there's the application of imaging to different areas of research, such as drug development and healthcare, which most of us probably think of when we think of imaging for what it's used for. So in recognition of this sort of growing discipline of imaging science, the Vanderbilt University Institute of Imaging Science was founded 23 years ago now as a trans-institutional initiative. And so what that means is really it was an effort to bring all different imaging modalities and all different applications of imaging under one roof. And so the VUIIS, as we call it, represents the home for all imaging science research at Vanderbilt. Within the halls of VUIIS itself, we have around 35 core faculty, although there are a number of other affiliated faculty across the university and the medical center who are very involved in imaging research. We have roughly equal numbers of staff and trainees being master's students, PhD students, and postdocs. I don't think it's any exaggeration for me to say that VUIIS is recognized as one of the premier imaging centers in the world. We bring together physicists and engineers, chemists, physicians, and technologists all together conducting research. And we have a really wide array of research represented here at VUIIS, all the way from doing fundamental sort of hardware research, developing the hardware for imaging systems, to using imaging in clinical trials. And here I just grabbed titles and authors of a few recent papers to give a sense that, we span methods for making radio tracers, using MRI to probe the structure of the brain, developing new probes for imaging, and developing new MRI techniques. So really a broad range of research is being conducted here. In the 22 years that the VUIIS has been around, we've recognized what we felt was a sort of gap in the type of personnel that are needed in imaging science, or a gap between sort of undergraduate education or also more advanced education in radiological or nuclear medicine technologists who work in the clinic and operate imaging systems, between that sort of level and then the PhD level, where people become really kind of world experts in a very, very narrow, very specific area of imaging science. So we created this Master of Imaging Science degree that's a professional degree focused on imaging science research. And the goal is to provide an advanced education and training in all aspects of biomedical imaging. So go beyond what people are going to get in undergraduate, even in biomedical engineering or other areas, but not going all the way to the super advanced, super specific areas of PhD level research. Importantly, this program is not preparation for a specific board certification. So we're really focused on just training for being able to participate in imaging science research. We believe this program represents great preparation for pursuing further education, such as a PhD in imaging, or in some area that might use imaging, or for people interested in going to medical school. Also, it's great training for people who are interested in careers in academic research, where, for instance, here in VUIIS, we have a number of people who are not faculty members, but there are people who work in faculty members' labs or in our core laboratories conducting academic research in imaging science. And then there's a very, very sizable need in industry right now for people with a very broad advanced imaging science background and training, not only in what you might think of as companies that are, say, building imaging hardware for use in hospitals, or the software for using those systems or analyzing images, but also there's a lot of effort in big pharma and pharmaceutical companies, because a lot of clinical trials, a lot of drug development these days involves imaging as part of the clinical trial process, using imaging as a biomarker to help study the drugs. And so they require people who understand the nuances and the capabilities of imaging and how it can be used in these drug trials. So our objective in this program is that we end up with students by the end who understand the fundamentals of imaging, how images are formed, what gives the contrast to the images, and are able to analyze the images from different modalities. We expect them to develop the ability to implement technical advances in imaging, and to be able to, use the expertise to use imaging or multiple imaging modalities in specific research applications. And just at the bottom, in terms of indicating what the benefit of sort of having a broad education across different imaging modalities, just show a sequence of images where the top row was someone with Parkinson's disease, the bottom row is a healthy control, and you have 3 different PET scans with 3 different radio tracers and 2 different MRI types of scans represented. And it's the combination of these different imaging approaches that elucidate greater detail in the disease state and the ability to understand the course of disease. The curriculum we've designed involves 30 credit hours for students undertaking it on a full-time basis. That represents a 12-month commitment. We do offer a part-time option, in which case you complete that 30 credit hours over 24 months. Part-time option in particular could be very appealing to people who are working already at Vanderbilt University or Vanderbilt University Medical Center. It allows them to potentially keep on working full-time and also take advantage of the tuition benefits that are offered by both the university and the medical center. Those 30 credit hours are split across a combination of didactic courses, hands-on laboratories. We have seminars that include clinical rotations, and then a final research project. In particular, I think strength of the program is the hands-on experience that students gain, where they get to operate all the different imaging modalities, both preclinical and in human scanners. And also we have an image analysis lab that in particular in the spring is closely coupled with the image acquisition labs, so that students learn to actually analyze the images and extract data from images that they themselves have acquired. Also, sort of separate from the curriculum itself, but I like to point out that the students in the MIS program have the opportunity to participate in the annual VUIS research retreat. And this provides our trainees an opportunity to present their research. And then it's particularly beneficial for the students to get exposure to the sort of full range of research that's being conducted at VUIS, which gives them some ideas and opportunity to meet some people that may represent opportunities for the research project that they'll undertake later on in the course. For that research project, we don't expect people to necessarily have any idea of what sort of research project they might want to do at the start when they start the program. We've set up a structured approach where in the spring we work with the students to help them identify a project and a mentor to work on that project with during the course of the spring semester. So they arrive by the end of the spring semester with a proposal that they present, both written and oral proposal. And then immediately at the conclusion of the spring semester, they sort of spend the summer conducting that research project that culminates in a final report and a presentation during the summer. We have a wide array of faculty in the Institute that are involved in the teaching for the courses. It's fair to say that we have experts across the full range of modalities, and we have top-notch researchers who have committed themselves to being involved in the education of our MIS students. And of course, one of the hallmarks of Vanderbilt is its collegiality and collaborative sort of environment, and I think that the Institute of Imaging Science goes above and beyond even that, and everyone's very welcoming, very open to discussion. We have a lot of faculty within the Institute that would be happy to mentor students for research projects. We also have a lot of collaborators and can facilitate if people have particular interests, help them find people, if not within help them find people either in the institute or our collaborators from other areas in the university and medical center that they might conduct their research with. So turning to the student side of it, who would be a good applicant? We find that students who have a STEM background are very strong candidates, although we have had folks who come at it from other areas, such as particular folks with psychology backgrounds. We've had several. You might be maybe a graduating senior who's interested in using a master's program as a stepping stone. Maybe you're not quite certain if you're wanting to go to medical school or to undertake the lengthy commitment of a PhD, want an opportunity to do some advanced study and get a feel for what that's like and being involved in research. Or it could be someone who's working in the clinic as a technologist, who's interested in the possibility of a career advancement or moving into research and learning about other imaging modalities. It's definitely beneficial to have math skills. There's no getting at the underlying sort of details and the physics of how images are formed without doing some math. And of course, when images are generated and to extract images, there's a fair amount of working with computers involved. For folks that maybe don't have a lot of math background or a lot of programming background, I mean, we really, when we're looking at applications, we look at sort of people's background, what their potential is, and we try to sort of meet them where they're at, and we can help point people towards resources that might help them. Maybe people haven't taken math in a while. We can point them towards resources to sort of help them get hopefully better prepared to be able to be ready to undertake the coursework when the semester starts. So the current cost of attendance, including the fees charged by the university, are listed here, but I'll refer you to the website for the medical school financial aid office that has the up-to-date sort of cost of attendance. At the moment, we don't have any specific financial support within the program itself, but you can work with financial aid office in the School of Medicine to identify possibilities for financial support. So the application itself is fairly straightforward. You need to submit a transcript, or if you have more than one place that you've studied, all of the transcripts of your higher education. Submit a statement of purpose, which is fairly short. Obtain at least 2 letters of recommendation. We don't require either a GRE or MCAT score for consideration of the application, although if you do have GRE or MCAT scores, you're welcome to and encouraged to submit those as part of the evaluation of your application. Those can be very beneficial. And for non-native English speakers, we do require one of 2 formal English language proficiency exams. The final application deadline for someone looking to start in the fall of 2025, the semester will start sort of mid to late August. The application deadline is April 30th, by which point the applicant needs to have all of their portion submitted. If the we leave it open for the letters of recommendation to come in, because sometimes that will take an extra few days for the people that have been asked to provide letters. So we just require the applicants themselves to have completed their components by April 30th. So that concludes the sort of slides portion. Point you to, we do have a general information email address you're always welcome to fire emails to, and can find additional information on our website listed here. But what I want to do now is open this up to questions. I think we have it set up, this meeting, such that you'll have to type your questions in the chat. And then my colleague Dan and I will do our best to try to answer all of your questions. So please go ahead and ask away with any questions. And actually, just to make it a little easier for me to see any questions coming in, I'm going to stop sharing now. Perhaps that was so inspiring that it doesn't leave any questions at all. But I do hope that you'll go ahead and type into the chat any questions you may have. Right. Dan, is there anything in particular I think we've got something popping in the chat right now. Okay. Would all courses be taken in person, or are there options for remote or online learning? So at this time thus far, we only do in person for that, in particular because of the hands-on nature of our labs and doing the clinical rotations. All of the coursework currently is in person. So in terms of the time schedule, how the credits are distributed, it's if you're doing the full-time option, it's full-time registration in the spring or in the fall and the spring, which is 12 hours each, so you get 24 hours for that. And then it's 6 credit hours in the summer for the research project. If you're doing part-time, you just cut all of that in half. And in fact, the first summer the part-time students take 3 hours in each of the summers, the first summer and then the second summer as well.
Let me chime in a little bit on the schedule part of it. So we've purposely set up the schedule to have everything on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So those are really long days, but it was to give students some flexibility. If you're a full-time student, basically goes from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. For part-time students, they either are doing their first year in the morning and taking 2 traditional classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or their second year, they do 2 labs and a seminar series more towards the afternoon. Again, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and that's designed so we know people have other commitments. Now, we can't absolutely guarantee that everything will be on Tuesdays and Thursdays because a big part of this whole thing is hands-on lab work and getting also outside speakers in the field coming in, and we can't 100% control those schedules depending on availability, but we've been really pretty successful in getting it near 100% on Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's always the possibility of having to have a little flexibility on the other days. But hopefully that gives you some idea of if it could possibly work for you.
Right, and that sort of approach for the part-time students certainly keeps the time well defined so that they're able to continue to work full-time for those who are working or already at the university or the medical center. And for even with the full-time students, we've structured it that way. We found that some students, undertake part-time jobs to try to bring in some money while they're studying. And so by structuring it that way, you have more opportunities where you have bigger chunks of time that you could work more hours if you were undertaking a part-time job, but still have enough time to undertake both the coursework itself and the studying involved for that. There is a question about industry partnerships as a part of the program, or mentorship for students aiming to transition into industry instead of academia. We don't have any formal, at the moment, we don't have anything where people can formally have an industry person as a mentor, say, for the research project. We do have a number of faculty members who engage in industry-sponsored research and collaborations with industry. Many of us have quite close ties with industry. And so there's certainly opportunity to either participate in research that's in fact sponsored by industry and have industrial collaborators in that way. Or certainly we have lots of contacts with folks in industry, depending on your interests, that we can get you in touch with people along the way.
Note also that we have and had for many years a full-time Philips employee from Philips Medical Systems stationed here, just because we do use enough of their equipment and do enough research that they like maintaining that. It's part of our openness to working with whoever we need to be productive, including industry people.
Looks like we have another one in process here.
Yeah, it's like a nerve-wracking conversation where you see the three dots. As long as we're waiting for questions here, I'll give you a little bit of a feel for the classes, how that works. Todd touched on it, but I'll flesh it out a little bit just because we're waiting. But if a question pops in your head, just type it out and I can be quiet and we can jump to the next thing. Roughly speaking, it's a combination of traditional lectures and labs and then seminars. And so the traditional classes are things like imaging physics or image processing or more biological based things called like imaging biomarkers or cellular molecular imaging. Those are kind of more what you're used to in college. Of you're sitting down, you're hearing a lecture, you're getting assignments, you're reading material. Even those aren't fully like a traditional class in that a lot of the work will be reading current papers, giving presentations, kind of more like graduate student classes. And they're also, we have both our first year and we now are in our second year of have 4 students. We'll probably have a little bit more next year, but it's still going to be a pretty small program. So that influences even a traditional lecture class. Then you also have 2 labs. One is the acquisition lab where you get the data, and the one is the analysis lab where you analyze that data. Todd showed some pictures to give you a feel of what that's like. But it's kind of the core of the program that separates it from being online or anything else, or even a traditional college class. And then you have a seminar series run by Todd, where you have lots of outside speakers coming in. You go through things like how do you do research? How do you get approval for different things? How do grants work? All sorts of things, all that touch on the whole industry there. So hopefully that gives you more of a feel of what it would be like.
Yeah, in terms of the research projects themselves, people can undertake. We've had folks do different types of projects. Some, focus more on image analysis. So we have some investigators that maybe have done large-scale studies, and they have image data, and folks then can come in. The project is to apply some analysis method to extract data from those images that have been collected. Or we have folks who've worked on projects that involve acquiring new image data, particularly participating in imaging research subjects, or potentially you can work on projects that are trying to develop new imaging tools or imaging probes, more chemistry or kind of physicsy engineering sort of based things. So there's sort of a range of opportunities depending on people's backgrounds and interests.
On that note, the research project, it's a summer, it's well defined. It's not intended to be a substitute for a full PhD sort of thing. It's not some gigantic thing. We want you to have an end result, but we don't require, for example, that you publish at the end or something like that. We want to guide you to feel what a research project is and get your hands dirty, really jumping into a lab and doing stuff, but with enough guidance that we know the time course. It's going to just take one summer and be a focused activity.
Like we may have one now. Yeah, if you don't have much of a background in computing, I mean, there are resources. I mean, so most of the work involves either MATLAB or possibly Python. There are, for instance, through Coursera or other tools, there are like online courses that you could get some experience with MATLAB, so you can learn sort of the basics of how the MATLAB environment works and how programming is done. And so that's something that you can do, online beforehand. So we can point people towards some resources to try to get you so so that by the time you come here, the focus is on the learning about the imaging and not trying to learn the imaging at the same time that you're trying to learn the programming environment itself. So yes, we can certainly point people towards resources that would help them be better prepared when they arrive.
And that goes for the math too. We've had people who, before they arrive, we have some interaction with them and we give them, okay, here's an example of a set of problems that should look familiar. And if they don't, here's some places on Khan Academy where you can look and get familiarity, remind yourself of this sort of math. Likewise, with the programming, there are self-study guides for MATLAB programming that kind of walk you through step by step. And then in the end, you show up and we end up with a significant spread in experience. We have had people, even this last class, who were working in computer programming before showing up. We've had people who are physicians who have never seen a computer program, but have lots of knowledge about other stuff like biochemistry and things like that. And we figure out what people's knowledge is and what things they need help in. And because it's such a small class, the teachers try to work with them and make it work, and give them guidance on what they need to do. The more you can do earlier before you show up in the summer, look at these self-study guides, the better, because then you come in a little more solid. But fundamentally, we're relatively flexible in working with people.
Certainly, the faculty have been great at kind of helping, sort of working to meet students where they're at and sort of get everyone together. And then also because of the size of the program, as Dan said, we found that the students work very closely together as well and do a good job kind of teaching one another. For instance, we've had, like in our current cohort, someone who's really good at the chemistry sort of stuff and knows all that. And so he's able to really talk about the chemistry and help other people when they're doing things that are related to more chemistry or physicsy type things. And then he doesn't know as much programming, but someone else knows more programming things. And so then they sort of, he learns from others. And so everyone's kind of helping one another along. And so I think that's certainly a strength, that it's not some big group of, you're sort of an anonymous student and you're on your own. It's certainly a group endeavor, both with your fellow students and with the faculty. So we do have a formal requirement, the way we're set up with the way the degree has been set up in the School of Medicine, that a bachelor's degree is required. So I don't know, we'd have to do some work to see if there's any, I'm not aware that we'd have any sort of bridge option for being able to welcome associate degree applicants.
If you think you have a particular background that would still make sense, you can reach out to us. We can reach out to School of Medicine and find out. Todd's probably right that it probably isn't an option for going into a master's. But if uh, this is something you think is a great match for you, reach out to us and let us know the data that you, or the information that would make at least a good case, and we can see if it's a possibility. We're not familiar with that particular issue. We could try it out if seeing what the possibilities are, but I can't guarantee anything on that.
Saw a hand go up briefly, hand raised, but if you do have a question, type it in, please type it in the chat. Okay. All right. Any further questions? If I don't see the dots down in the corner of someone typing here soon, we might go ahead and wrap it up. But certainly we're willing to stay on however long you have questions, answer whatever questions we're able while we're all here.
And if some question occurs to you the moment we sign off, you can always send the email to, I forget the address is on our website.
Here, I'll go ahead and share so that appears again. So the mis.contact@vanderbilt.edu. So a number of us have access to that and monitor that email address and can either respond directly or loop in whatever other resources, whoever else we might need to try to answer your question.
Yeah, and we've even had people come and visit beforehand and see the place and have a meeting with us and chat in person. If you're in the neighborhood and that's important to you, we will work to answer whatever questions you got in whatever way makes the most sense.
But do we have any other? Now that I've gone to share screen, I don't see the chat, so then you'll have to tell me.
Yeah, no, there's nothing on chat. Emily put in the email
Okay, put
contact
that
us
into the
with the
chat.
chat. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Emily. All right. Well, if not, again, thank you for your interest and thank you for your time. And by all means, do reach out, and we would, be excited to see some of you submit applications to our program and hopefully join us here in the fall. So, thanks for your time, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.